Fannie Willis, Fulton County District Attorney, just going where the facts led. That's what she said last night when the indictment was of Trump and associates, 18 of them to be specific, was announced before the grand jury voted, and then it was unannounced, and then the grand jury voted, then it was announced again.
I make decisions in this office based on the facts and the law. The law is completely nonpartisan. That's how decisions are made in every case. To date, this office has indicted, since I've been sitting as a district attorney, over 12,000 cases. This is the 11th RICO indictment. We followed the same process. We look at the facts, we look at the law, and we bring charges.
Simple as that.
Right. Mm-hmm.
We'll see if it is as simple as that. George Parry is a former federal and state prosecutor, regular contributor to the American Spectator. He blogs at knowledgeisgood.net. George, thanks for being with us again. Appreciate it.
Glad to be with you.
So your reaction to the Fulton County, much anticipated and expected Fulton County indictment?
Well, it's a very broad-based indictment. I mean, it alleges 161 separate criminal acts that prosecutors say were taken to further the conspiracy.
Right.
And it includes acts taken in not only in Georgia, but in Nevada, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, the other battleground states, and understands that under conspiracy law and RICO, the Georgia RICO statute is basically a conspiracy statute. You can have a conspiracy to accomplish a criminal purpose, or it can be legal acts taken to accomplish, acts taken to accomplish a legal purpose by illegal means. So that's basically what you've got here, although they allege that Rudy Giuliani, for example, gave false testimony to the Georgia legislature about election fraud. That's just one example. One of the other things they cite is Trump's phone call to Brad Raffensperger, the Secretary of State.
Yeah, but let's just hold up there. Like all of this, the phone call, the Giuliani testimony, these 161 acts, which include Trump tweeting out Georgia hearings now on OANN, amazing. Yeah. To every phone call. That Giuliani, Jenna Ellis, Trump, every statement that he made that they disagree with or that a court of law did not substantiate with respect to election fraud is criminal. Every statement, every phone call, every tweet is a criminal act because they disagree with the assertions that Trump and his team were making.
Yeah, and based on their disagreement with it, they are assessing that these were lies and these were calculated to basically defraud the voters of the effect of their votes because they were trying to achieve this illegal purpose to undo the election in Georgia. So they've characterized.
So challenging election results is illegal in Fulton County.
Is illegal. According to Fannie Willis, oh, by the way, I have to correct your pronunciation. Her first name is Fannie, which is Swahili for prosperous. Just wanted to share that with you.
Well, if that's the case, then why isn't Stacey Abrams behind bars or charged with or indicted?
Well, Stacey,
because she questioned she questioned the election too. So it's just different rules for different people.
Stacey isn't a Republican.
She hasn't conceded yet either, nor has Hillary Clinton. All right, so and I'm sure you saw this, but before the indictment was handed down, we saw it. The DA in Fulton County, Georgia, accidentally published the indictment against President Trump prior to convening the grand jury. So DAs are now indicting before grand juries vote?
Well, they say, oh, well, that was just a mistake. But what about this weird babe who was the
Emily Kors,
the foreperson? Yeah, she's a Wiccan, or she claims to be a witch. And she's on television saying, well, I can't tell you, but you're going to recognize some names. I mean, it was the most bizarre performance I've ever seen by a grand jury foreperson. But look, the interesting thing to me, just looking at it from a grunt level prosecutor's standpoint, and I tried RICO cases in federal court, you got 19 defendants and 161 separate acts in furtherance of this conspiracy that just, they encompass acts throughout the United States. This isn't going to be a trial; it's going to be a zoo.
Right.
They're going to be tried together. She said they're going to be tried together,
really?
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
They better get a bigger courtroom. Yeah, and they're going to broadcast it live.
They're going to have to they're going to have to rent out the Atlanta Convention Center for this one just to hold the trial. So you're going to have 19 defendants with their lawyers. You're going to have the prosecutor, and this thing is going to take months. Now, if Trump is required to be present for that trial, this could take him off the campaign trail for literally months, which may be the real purpose behind this indictment. If it ever does go to trial, and I anticipate it will, this is just going to be a complete mess. I don't know how a judge is going to be able to manage this thing with 19 defense counsel popping off at any given time.
Oh,
you think
that's like a nightmare?
You think there's any chance that this case would get dismissed?
Well, the only problem, I don't see any inherent legal flaws in the case. I'm sure smarter people can go through it and find it. I don't, just from doing a quick read last night, I don't think that there's a possibility of its being dismissed, but you never know. I mean, this is not an ordinary situation. You got a former president of the United States as your defendant, and Georgia is hardly Manhattan when it comes to statewide politics and the composition of the state Supreme Court. So, you've got that. I'm just looking at it, in terms of if it goes to trial. Fulton County is not just the city of Atlanta. I mean, I was born and raised in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. Fulton County extends out to what used to be rural areas. They got, places like Alpharetta, Roswell, Sandy Springs, Fairburn. I mean, all these places that when I lived down there were just the ends of the earth. Now they are bedroom communities of Atlanta. The point being that you're going to be able to find conservative or at least center of the road jurors in those areas. So it's not like that it would be in Manhattan or Washington, D.C., where Trump is dead on arrival. Mm-hmm. You're going to have a more than even chance of seating a fair and impartial jury, or at least a mixed jury in terms of their political orientations.
So let's say this goes to trial and it goes to verdict, and Trump and his associates are convicted. Are acquitted. Let's say they're acquitted. So then, under the legal theory advanced here, could we have the Attorney General for Georgia indict Fani Willis, or however you pronounce her name, and all of her prosecutors under this RICO statute? Because they advanced a legal theory that wasn't supported by the facts. They were unable to prove their case. That's criminal. If Trump is acquitted, then they should be indicted under the state's RICO statute. What do you think about that?
Well, I know that at the federal level, a prosecutor, and I think this would carry over under Georgia law, a prosecutor is entitled to a certain degree of immunity for actions taken in the courtroom and, for that matter, in the grand jury room.
Well,
there's less broad immunity for actions taken in the course of an investigation.
Yeah, I'm being a bit facetious, but not completely facetious, because isn't this the point? The point is, you advanced a legal theory that we disagree with, that was not substantiated in a court of law. That is now a criminal act, and every conversation and every utterance about this faulty legal theory is an act in furtherance of a criminal act?
Well, I mean, that certainly appears to be the driving force here, but the indictment talks about Giuliani giving false testimony, for example, to the Georgia legislature. Well, they're going to have to prove that it was false testimony. And how do you go about that? You got to show not only intent, you've got to show that it was factually wrong, factually false. It's not enough to say, well, Giuliani came in here and advanced a theory, which was my take on his testimony.
Of course.
When he appeared before the state legislature, he said, look, fellas, here's what we believe happened here.
It's the same thing it's the same thing Trump said on the call with Ravensburger. We believe it was X number of votes who voted from vacant addresses. We believe this and we believe that. So Ravensburger said, I disagree. So because Ravensburger disagreed and no court in Fulton County or the state of Georgia would agree with Trump and his team, now it's a criminal conspiracy. I mean, how is that? How is that the rule of law? And how is that possibly what the authors of the racketeering statute in Georgia were contemplating when they passed that law? I mean, come on.
Well, I don't think the RICO statute has ever been applied in circumstances like this. I mean, look, Bonnie Willis is strutting around saying, well, I used RICO to take out the, a bunch of Atlanta educators who were rigging test results, and I used it to take out these rapper gangs that were in the music industry. That's great. But what do you have here? They cite as one of the acts in furtherance of the conspiracy Trump's efforts to solicit the vice president of the United States. We know about that. He advances a theory that was put together by some very high-priced lawyers who claimed to know what they were doing, that Pence had the authority, the legal authority, to delay the vote on alternative slates of electors. And if you can read the Constitution, there is some basis for that theory. That's one of the things they're citing as an act in furtherance of this conspiracy. They cite the same thing about Giuliani's testimony. They talk, and the phone call to Raffensperger, the state Secretary of State, as I recall that call, what Trump said is, I'm looking for 11,000 votes. Well, yeah, that's clearly what he was doing. He was looking for 11,000 votes that would switch the outcome. He wasn't soliciting an illegal act.
Correct.
But that's the spin they're putting on it. They're taking that conversation and saying, well, here he is. He was even trying to get the Secretary of State in on the act. So that's what they've done here. They've taken all of these ambiguous acts. Now, there's some of these things like a fake slate of electors and all that. I don't know the details on that. There may be something in there that they could point to and say, yeah, this was definitely wrong.
The thrust of this, just like the J6 indictment, is you committed thought and speech crimes.
Yep.
That's what this is, isn't it?
Well, yeah. Except you took action on them.
Well, right. I talked to people about what I believe to be true. I mean, so what?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and certainly that's going to be the defense advanced by Trump and the others, for that matter. I mean, look, Rudy Giuliani, the former mayor of New York City, a national figure, and he's going to go in and consciously lie to the state legislature. I mean, come on. They got a lot of is on the old I Love Lucy show. Desi Arnaz always said, Lucy, you got some splaining to do.
Yeah.
Well, the prosecutors in this case got some splaining to do. They're going to have to explain how it is that these actions that they have included in this indictment are actually in furtherance of a criminal enterprise. And look, it's an election dispute, and they're criminalizing an election dispute.
So which trial?
Not like, It's not like they caught the Trump people with fake, with boxes of ballots, like they could have caught the other side.
All of this was done. I mean, some of the phone calls. I want to talk to the Scott Perry from Pennsylvania about this or that. I mean, some of that maybe not be all the idiosyncratic details here, but all of this was done like openly and notoriously. Everybody knows the arguments that were made. Everybody knows they were on cable news channels. He's tweeting about it. And now all this, now after the fact, they're looking back and this is all this black helicopter conspiracy. This is absurd. And it's frankly frightening. They should file a motion to dismiss just to be on the record, because this is, to me, a violation. Not just is this without merit. This is a violation of the free speech rights, the constitutional rights of all of the named defendants, barring something more than what's contained in this 98-page indictment.
Fundamentally, what it is election interference. Right. Which is what they accused Trump of doing.
Yeah, right. Of course, irony of irony.
So which case is going to come first? I know this is his fourth indictment, which takes top billing. Do we know yet?
Well, you got four different dockets.
Yeah, it's jurisdiction.
And they're saying the Fulton County DA's office is saying, well, we want to get to trial in 6 months' time. Well, I don't know. I don't know what the docket is like down there. I don't know what kind of leeway they're going to have.
Pre-trial motions and, all kinds of things that can delay it. George Parry, former federal and state prosecutor, regular contributor to the American Spectator. He blogs at knowledgeisgood.net. George, thank you as always. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
The stories you need to know to start your day. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Rick here from Forever Remodeling. You probably heard me talk about how our unique design build process removes the normal problems of hiring a designer